Who here is new? I kind of walked in halfway, so I'm not really too familiar with all you guys. Okay, cool. Second time back? Yeah, third time back? No. Fourth time? Okay. Well, in any case, who here knows me already? Gabriel. So yeah, I remember you. Well, my name is Paloma. So a long time ago, I used to debate with Leia in high school. So I went to Bravo too. Every once in a while, I try to make it back, and give back to the community that gave me so much. So whenever you see me around, ask me questions. I would love to get to know all of you guys, but I'm one person versus at least 50 of you guys. But in any case, during the lecture, if I'm going too fast, just cut me off, tell me no, go back. Repeat that, I have no idea what you just said. All right, we good? Cool, all right. So Leia taught you guys about the topic resolution, right? So what's the purpose of a resolution? Anyone? They're right there. So what's the first one? Should be relevant and timely, right? So the topic should focus on something that's going on in the news currently. Can anyone point out anything you've noticed in the news? What's Trump been up to lately? ICE? Okay, that's good. That's timely. What else?
Deportation.
Yep, deportation related to ICE. What about in the Middle East? What kind of shenanigans has he been up to over there? Right. He's been trying to sell weapons to a bunch of other countries, right? He's all about the dough. So that's what the topic this year will be on. It will be on nuclear arms sales. Sorry, not nuclear arms sales, just arms sales. So the topic is also going to provide us a guideline as to what will make a good debate, right? We want all you guys to learn as much as you can about the topic. We want you to learn deeply about the topic, not just very broad subject matters that fall within the realm of the topic, right? So that's why we have the topic resolution. Does anyone remember it at all? No? You guys would have gotten a bunch of points with me if you did. I know it can be a mouthful. So resolve, the United States federal government should substantially reduce direct commercial sales and foreign military sales from the United States. All right, so what's the most important part of this sentence? What do you guys think it is? Yeah.
Reduce direct commercial sales.
Okay, cool, yeah. Right here, substantially reduce. What in your own words does that mean? Okay, is substantially reduced, say we're selling 100 nuclear weapons and now we're gonna sell 99. Is that substantial? Yeah. What about going from like 1,000 to 0? Is that a lot? Is that substantial?
Yes.
Cool, so everything that we talk about during the 1AC, remember that, should focus on substantially reducing. That's the first part of the topic. Direct commercial sales and foreign military sales is something I'm going to be covering during the topic lecture, right? Because how many of you guys know about that already? Yeah, see, I didn't, so I had to go and research everything for you guys today too. So today I'm going to teach you guys about the market. So in my current role at my job, this is basically what I do all day. I compare different markets and see how they're growing, how they're changing, what causes them to increase, what causes them to fall. And so arms sales is a market in the US, right? So if we think about it, we have this bubble right here. Everything involved, regulations, money, all the different types of products that fall under arms sales is inside this green bubble, right? What's gonna help this bubble grow? What can you guys think of?
Commerce.
Commerce, yeah, okay, cool. That's definitely one of them. So, it is one of them. It's just not the first one that popped up. So the first one I actually have is foreign conflict, right? Who needs guns? People at war, people in civil war, people trying to deter other countries, right? Does everyone know what deterrence is? No? Okay, so deterrence is when you're trying to prevent someone from trying to infiltrate your land And so you use mainly weapons or certain policies to prevent them from, invading or trying to take over your economy, right? So when there is foreign conflict, we're able to sell more arms abroad. Federal funding for defense, because a part of the topic involves sales that are made through the military inventory. When we have more money cycling through the military, we're also able to sell more weapons. Does that make sense? Yes, no? Kinda? I'll go with no. All right, so what that means, when we have more money to go market our weapons, and we have more people trying to find these contracts with other countries, are other countries going to be more likely to want to buy guns from us if we're out there seeking them? Yeah, right? Okay, so that's also going to help the market grow. What else? Trade. So that's kind of getting to the point that you were making. Trade, right? So every country is always vying to try to grow their economy, right? Why is that a good thing for their country? How does the economy help us? Yeah.
They buy things from us?
Yeah, they buy things from us, so that's more money in our pockets. Does that help create jobs? Yes.
More economic growth leads to more advancements.
Yeah, so more technology. We can invest more heavily in different types of technology, just not what's limited to this market. What else? More jobs, right? So we get to go to work every day, come back, put food on the table, right? So that's why even arms sales is important to our economy, right? Because it stimulates trade with other countries. All right, next thing. This one's a little harder. How would us spending money on guns help grow the arms sale market?
Because if we improve or just make more guns, we can make more money.
Yeah, that's one. What about more of a perception things? When we're buying more guns, does that mean we feel more comfortable with weapons? Yeah, right. So if we're pro-gun, I love my rifle here. Am I going to care if the U.S. is selling guns to, say, Saudi Arabia? I'll likely be more okay with it, right? So when the people here don't really care, it allows them to, find these contracts abroad. All right. What makes the market contract? What's going to hurt making money in this market?
Regulation.
Yeah. So you got this one on the first try. Yeah, regulations. How?
Regulating trade means that they're going to have less options. So you can't buy certain guns if those are deemed illegal.
Yeah, exactly. So right, it makes it harder to buy things that are considered illegal. It also creates more red tape, which is a fancy word of saying you have all these loopholes and barriers before you can actually make a deal, right? So you have to get licenses, you have to show all the inventory you're trying to sell, you have to make sure that the person you're selling to is not going to use these for harm, right? You have to prove all of this to the government before you're allowed to make your sale, right? And so that's going to likely impede or reduce the amount of sales that are going to happen, right? Still with me? Cool. All right, what else? Peace treaties, right? And we say that everything's going to be peaceful, we're going to live in a nice utopia, there is no need for guns, right? Can you guys give me an example of where that's been the case? Like, what countries do we have peace treaties with right now?
Japan.
Yeah, Japan. What's near Japan, but to the north?
Russia?
Kinda.
North Korea?
North Korea, right? We're saying that we're not, nuclear arms we're gonna tame them, we're not gonna try to bomb each other. Anywhere else? No. What about Cuba? Right?
Israel.
Israel, yeah. Okay. Embargoes and sanctions. Do you guys know what those are? They're our way of slapping the wrist of a different country, right? When they do something bad, we say we are not going to trade with you guys. We're not going to sell to you guys. We're not going to be allowed to do any business with you guys. Can you guys think of one country where we have sanctions or embargoes?
Korea.
Yes.
What's the difference between a sanction and a tariff?
Okay, so a tariff is placed on every product coming in or out of the country, right? So TVs, chairs, cameras, computers all have tariffs, right? It's the cost of doing business with someone, right? So everything should have a tariff because it's going to cost you money to get it here and to process it through customs. An embargo or a sanction is something you do specifically when the country that it's coming out from or is asking to purchase something from you has done something bad, right? So in the past, why have we had sanctions on, embargoes with Cuba? Have you guys taken American history yet? No? World history? Maybe? Okay. Don't worry, I'll guide you guys. All right, you had raised your hand. No? Okay, so we thought Cuba was communist, right? We thought they treated their people badly, and we're like, we're not going to sell to you guys, right? Same with North Korea. Okay, so now we're going to put it to the test. Given everything we know about the arms sale market, here is a graph showing how weapons trade has changed throughout the years. All right, so we see in the 80s it was the highest. What was going on in this period of time? In the 80s?
The drug war?
Say that again?
Drug war?
No. I'm thinking near Germany. Yeah, sorry.
War II?
No. That was way before. That was a long time ago. Yeah.
The Cold War?
Yes, the Cold War. Who were the countries involved in the Cold War?
The USSR,
Yeah.
the US,
Mm-hmm.
Cuba.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, remember we split Germany in half? Right? Part of it went to the east, part of it went to the west.
Yeah.
Yep. Trade went crazy high. Everyone wanted a gun to protect themselves, right? So it just shot up. Then we reached this decline, right? Not a ton is going on. We still have some conflict in the Middle East, in Africa. What happens here to make it shoot up again? What happened in 2001?
9/11.
Yeah, right? 5 years after that, what happened? Who did the US declare war on?
Somewhere in the Middle East.
Yes. Iraq.
Iran.
So we see weapons shooting up again. The last one, I'm not too sure if you guys will be aware of. In 2001, what started happening in the Middle East?
The Palestine conflict?
That's been going on for ages. It happened on Twitter. That's the hint I'll give you guys. That's where it started.
There's some sort of rebellion?
Yeah. So a bunch of countries in the Middle East felt that their government was being oppressive. So what they did is they started these crazy huge revolutions on Twitter. They gathered, so for example in Egypt, they gathered in their central square and just started revolting. So a lot of these countries like Egypt, Tunisia, Yemen, and Iraq were able to overthrow their government for being oppressive, right? And what did they want to set up in its place? Democracies, right? They wanted to pick their leaders, right? That's what's so special about the US, right? One person would vote. Although it doesn't really seem the case anymore, but for argument's sake, they want to be a lot more like the US, right? They want fairness coming from their government. They want to be treated with dignity and respect, right? And that they matter. So then we see weapons trade going up again because these conflicts are still ongoing. All right, so given what we kind of know about the world in that brief 5-minute history, who is the 5th largest exporter? Who do you guys think it is? Okay, did you say China? Any other ones? Russia, Germany. Okay, all right, let's see what's number 5. China. So from the US, they import about 5% of our weapons, right? Who's number 4? I think it is. It is. All right, so not a lot more. All right, who's number 3? So we've been talking about the Middle East a lot, right?
Saudi Arabia.
France. Oh, sorry.
You said the Middle East.
I did say the Middle East. I forgot one. All right, so France also imports. So a lot of these countries are technologically advanced, but we're still ahead, which is the reason they still purchase from us. We got great companies here like Boeing and Northrop who create state-of-the-art fighter jets, which is why they still like to buy from us. Back onto the Middle East, so, oh, darn it. Russia, all right, cool. So Russia is also a large exporter, right? I mean, just think of the sheer size of the country. They manufacture so much. So who's number 1? Exporter.
Oh, that means they're taking,
People are buying from them.
Saudi Arabia.
The US.
I thought we excluded the US.
Right. Right, so the US is the number 1 by a lot. We have one of the biggest economies. I think I confused you guys by saying importers. Sorry, it says exporters. So these are all the people selling in the world. Whew, my bad. So are we all on the same page? Oh, okay, these are all the people selling, right? All of these countries have really big manufacturing economies, saying that we can build things for very low costs. But the US, number 1, right? So that's how much. That's how much we're doing in military sales, right? 43 billion is about 72,000 Teslas. Imagine if I were just to go out and buy that much. That's a lot of money, right? Do you guys think commercial sales will be higher or lower? What do you guys think that number is? Is it double 43 billion, triple, quadruple, about the same?
Half.
Half?
No.
Didn't we say it was higher?
Oh, you said it was sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I was on my phone.
Okay, a lot more, actually, it turns out. So there's a lot of conflicting numbers out here in terms of what's included in sales for each. So like some analysis might say like, oh, we actually exclude tanks or missiles. And that's why there can be a lot of conflicting data. But I pulled this directly from the US Department of State. So I'm going with what they say, right? And they're saying a lot, regardless. Okay, so what exactly are we selling? All right, this is a breakdown by a nonprofit in Stockholm. So they compare all of the programs by all the countries and they see what the heck is being traded, right? That's a good thing to keep track of. It makes everything a lot more transparent. So aircrafts. Why are aircrafts and missiles the largest purchase?
They do more harm.
Yeah, they do more harm, right?
Reconnaissance.
Yeah, reconnaissance.
We're the most technologically advanced when it comes to aircraft.
Yep, we build the best.
Metal base.
But yeah, these are basically tools of deterrence, right? Remember we went over that word? Like, if we point our missiles at North Korea, are they gonna want to do anything bad? Yeah, they might double think it, right?
It's a risk.
Yeah. So that's why a lot of countries would prefer to spend their money on aircrafts instead of armored vehicles, for example. Simple enough. Okay, importers. So these are all the people buying from the US, right? We're gonna circle back to that point. So these are for about the last 10 years. Who is number 5? Who do you guys think is importing from the US? Iraq. So this is where we go back to the Middle East, sorry. So, did we say there's conflict in Iraq?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? We're still in Iraq and Afghanistan after like almost close to 15 years. And nothing's really been resolved. South Korea. So why does South Korea purchase so much?
Because they're
Oh,
no.
Yeah, they're terrified of North Korea and their capabilities, right? Yeah, they're always testing missiles, so of course South Korea is going to want to be able to defend themselves, right? We also have a huge military presence around South Korea. The UAE, right, Middle East, near Saudi Arabia. So they buy a lot of weapons just because there's so much instability in the region, they have a need to also defend themselves, yeah.
Is that a country or like a coalition of?
A coalition. All right, who is number 4? Any guesses? No? Australia, right? That one caught me really off guard. So I had to do a little digging. So this has a lot more to do with Australia's economy, right? So Australia has a lot of coal and iron. Are those stable commodities?
No.
No, right? So when their prices fall and rise and fall and rise, and then maybe there's a supply shortage one year, what does that do to their economy?
It makes it unstable.
Yeah, and that's scary, right, for the people living there. So the reason Australia is so high is because they're trying to help grow their economy. Remember we talked about how arms trade can create jobs for some people? That's basically what Australia is trying to do, right? And they're trying to, show that their military presence is strong.
But Australia's been in no conflicts, like in any time.
Yeah,
Besides
right.
being-
Which is strange that it would be so high on the list, right? That's a sleeper country. We got to keep our eye on them. So who's number 1?
Is it Russia?
Well, why would Russia buy from their competition? Right? Remember they're number 2?
Vietnam.
Saudi Arabia. Yeah. You guys will learn more about them later on. But they're sneaky. They do some pretty villainous stuff in the Middle East.
Didn't they fill that one before?
Yeah. Do you guys remember his name? Jamal Khashoggi? Ring a bell? Okay. So we're going to cover a couple of U.S. policies. So the Arms Control Export Act. So this mostly regulates arms sales in the U.S., right? So this is where we go back to policy restricting how much this economy can grow. So the executive, the State Department is the agency in charge of regulating arms. So what does that say there? They issue licenses to individuals or organizations, meaning businesses that want to import or export any goods related to that can be used for the military purposes, right? So if I wanted to, I can just go up to the State Department, sign up, show that I'm a citizen, get a license, pay $2,000, I believe, and I can just start selling arms to other countries, right? But they need to know who I am first. But it's a very straightforward process for the most part. But in order to get these licenses, you need to follow a couple rules. You're not going to create an arms race. You're not going to start selling to the most dangerous people in the world. No. We don't want to do that. What else? Support the trade of mass weapons of destruction. What are these types of weapons? Yeah, nukes, basically. What else? International terrorism. What are some terrorism organizations that you guys have heard of? ISIS, yeah. Al-Qaeda. AQAP is another one.
Antifa.
Well, yeah, actually, I think they're now considered
Yeah.
terrorists. Like, they're put on a watch list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's all those violent.
But what's their opposing side? I can't remember. The actual fascists. I can't remember. You're not going to try to create conflict to escalate, meaning you're not going to try to like suddenly sell to people who are going to, go and cause another Holocaust, for example. And it's not going to conflict with policies we have. So remember, we talked about embargoes. Am I going to go and try to sell to North Korea?
No.
Heck no, they're going to put me in jail if I try to do that. Right. So ITAR, International Traffic in Arms Regulation, right? Another policy under the same umbrella of actors. This is a little different. So it adds stuff to this U.S. Munitions List, USML, right? And so it's saying, okay, based on the laws from the Arms Control Act, here are all the products it covers. So if we were to go to the list, let's see, if we go to the munitions list, it has all these arms that are regulated. A bunch of different types. It includes ammunition, different types of technology that can be used for military purposes. And it goes on and on, right? All those products included in that list need to be regulated by these two laws. So in order to be considered to be included on the USML list, there's a two-part test, right? Goods may be added if they are designed specifically or adapted for military application, meaning the only purpose is to serve the military, right? Easy enough? So that means I have no use for them, and so it can help the military in some way. If that's the case, if it meets both parts, it needs to be included, right? Easy enough. So we have another law that governs all exports in the U.S., right? So we're no longer talking about the military or any weapons. Now we're just talking about any commodity good, right? Chairs, tables, anything. This law gives the government to regulate any other products. Specifically, we're talking about the executive. So Trump can say, we're no longer selling doors, right? And so no company in the U.S. can sell doors anymore, right? So it's any good not covered by ITAR. However, this lapsed in 2001, so this gives Trump now the power to pass an executive order for these products. It's not regulated by Congress anymore, right? So do you guys know what an executive order is? So it's a policy that bypasses Congress. Remember, everything has to go through Congress. They get to vote on it, and then it becomes law. Well, an executive order bypasses that. Trump can just ignore Congress, which we've noticed he's been doing, right? And regulate whatever he wants. And the powers are pretty broad, right? Did he recently call anything a national security threat? Right? Remember, he wants to build the border wall? He's like, immigrants are a threat to our national security, right? And so at some point, Congress may have to authorize funding because, there are laws that are very broad like this. What about steel and aluminum? He also decided to regulate that based on any metals coming out of China are a threat to our security. Still with me?
Do you have a reason for this?
So they say it's mostly intellectual property theft has been one of the reasons I've seen quoted. That's a threat to our, U.S. intelligence. But no, it doesn't have to be a very specific explanation. He can just say national security and slap, an embargo or something. Okay, we don't need to go over this. Okay. So why should we care about arms sales? Right? They're right there. laid out for you, right? So why does it increase our security? So why does selling weapons to other people increase our security?
They could attack us.
Well, no. Why when we sell weapons to other people, why does that increase our security? Remember, they have to go through this whole process of licensing, and we need to know who they are. So we know where they're at. When we regulate arms sales, we know exactly where all the weapons are, right? We support our allies, yes.
Aren't those two things contradicting each other?
Yes. So right now I'm going through the advantages. And then we'll cover this. And I'll explain why. So, well, do you guys remember what I just said about increased security? Right? We know where all our weapons are.
Do we really, though?
No. But that's an argument for the negative, right? That's a disadvantage to having any arms sale. But back to the second one. How do we support our allies, right? We support South Korea. We support Japan in the region, right? We support, who else? When we sell weapons. Mostly democratic countries, right? If we believe that they have a system of government that's worth supporting, we're more likely to give them our support financially, right? Are they willing to reciprocate if we're doing all this for them? Yeah, right? Like, you scratch your back, you scratch my back, I scratch yours type of deal, right?
You have stronger ties.
Yeah, but
Exactly.
like, whatever.
Right? Anti-proliferation, right? That kind of goes back to point number one, right? When we regulate arms trade, we're able to see where all the weapons are, less likely to use them at the same time, right? Because of deterrence. Right, and it stimulates the economy, right? This is a big argument for supporting arms sales. Right, decrease security. We talked about this already, right now. Someone brought it up. You did, I believe.
About,
Yeah, we actually don't know where all the weapons are.
right.
We're full to actually think that that's the case. Weapons get smuggled all the time. We see that in the US alone. Imagine what's going on when we factor in 170 other countries. So, signals weak leadership. What do you guys think that means? That means we don't know other ways of showing our strength, right? Have you guys heard of hard power and soft power?
Yeah.
No.
No? Okay, so I heard a yeah. Can someone describe it?
Soft power is kind of like alliances, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
While hard power is like military.
Yeah. So some people will argue that using soft power will build better partnerships. So, you know, there's no risk of retaliation when we use soft power. Does that make sense? Yeah. We're here because we want to be friends, you know. Countries want to partner with each other because they feel like those partnerships will help them prosper, instead of having relationships built on fear. So we already talked about this point, and then hurts the economy, right? Basically the opposite argument. Okay, so your topic specifically is going to cover Taiwan. That's the app you're going to read. So I got this video that's going to teach you a little bit about what's going on there right now.
Taiwan has a constitution, an army, and an elected government, yet the United Nations doesn't formally recognize it. The reason? China considers the island one of its provinces, the government as illegitimate, and talk of independence deeply hostile. A new president in Taipei from the independent-leaning Democratic Progressive Party is testing China's tolerance, as is a new president in Washington. Here's the situation. Taiwan's first female president, Tsai Ing-wen, provoked an angry response from China by speaking to Donald Trump by telephone after he was elected. In deference to the Beijing government, no US leader has talked directly to a Taiwan president in almost 4 decades. Tsai says she wants peaceful ties with China while resisting pressure to acknowledge the One China principle.
两岸之间应该要尽快坐下来谈。
That principle has underpinned relations with China in the past. It's the understanding that both sides belong to one China, even if they have different ideas about what that means. Trump says his support for a one China policy hinges on cutting a better trade deal with China, prompting a complaint from the Chinese government.
I don't know why we have to be bound by a one China policy unless we make a deal with China.
Tsai is promising to follow public opinion on China. Polls show strong support for maintaining the status quo of coexistence and little immediate interest in independence. Here's the argument. Taiwan's 23.5 million people have built their economy into a technology and manufacturing powerhouse. Average income is 3 times that of China's, and much of Apple's iPhone made there. Voters turned aside to keep the peace while building international ties, with a view to a future less dependent on the mainland. While many China watchers say there's too much at stake for military confrontation, Trump's election has added a degree of uncertainty to the old assumptions. An increasingly assertive China aims more than 1,200 missiles at Taiwan, and no peace treaty has been signed in the 7 decades since the government split. For the US, some analysts say supporting the one China policy has allowed it to sell weapons to Taiwan, and that's helped deter China from attempting to retake the island by force.
Okay, that's the gist of the relationship between China and Taiwan. So what are some of the things the video taught us? What is the one China policy or principle?
China wanting Taiwan to be the province of China.
Yeah, so China wants to say whatever policy we set with the world, you have to defer to us. Taiwan is not independent, right? But the video also said Taiwan has had an independent democracy for how long? 7 decades, right? So at this point, they have their own government, they have their own economy, their people have different values from people on mainland China. What else did they say in the video? What's the average income in Taiwan? 3 times China. Is China going to want a piece of that pie? Of course, if their economy is booming, they're going to want to claim it for their own. So would China want them to become an independent, would they want to recognize them as an independent nation?
No.
Hell no. Okay. So this is a piece of evidence that will be included in your file. The US actually has conflicting policies, right? They agree to recognize that China is, they agree to recognize the one China policy, but at the same time, our evidence shows that the US has an obligation to provide arms to Taiwan based on a treaty they signed years ago, right? So Washington agreed in '82 to reduce its sale of arms to Taiwan. This is a treaty with China. However, what did Trump just do? Trump is trying to grow the economy, right? He's cutting these deals. So Taiwan is one of the countries actually that he's trying to cut a deal with. So even since 2010, what has Chinese officials been saying? So after an arms sale announcement calling for the sale of a gross intervention of Chinese affairs, right? They hate that the US is getting involved in the region. They say, you have no business doing any business with Taiwan, right? Stay out of it. And so, what else? It's going to have a serious negative impact to bilateral relationships. Do we know what bilateral means? Yeah? Bi, two. So China, the US. Any relationship having to do with China and the US, it's gonna be hurt if the US keeps doing business with Taiwan. All right, so let's see what's been going on in recent news.
China has called for an arms deal between the US and Taiwan to be cancelled immediately. That's after the US State Department approved the sale of over $2 billion of weapons and arms to Taiwan.
Well, the move comes amid strained trade relations between Beijing and Washington. Speaking to reporters earlier today, China's foreign ministry called the deal a serious violation of international law and the one China policy.
美方向台湾出售武器，严重违反国际法和国际关系基本准则，严重违反一个中国原则和中美3个联合公报的规定，粗暴干涉中国内政，损害中国主权和安全利益。中方对此表示强烈不满和坚决反对，已经就此向美方提出了严正交涉。
The proposed sale includes 250 Stinger missiles, 108 Abrams tanks and related equipment. They were requested by Taiwan earlier this year in order to bolster its defenses, quote, in the face of pressure from China.
The U.S. has been obligated to supply the island with arms for some 40 years under the Taiwan Relations Act.
U.S. lawmakers now have 30 days to object to the sale, but they are unlikely to do so. Our correspondent Olivia Stone has more on Beijing's reaction.
Beijing has slammed a potential arms sale to Taiwan by the United
We'll just put that video there. Okay, so what did we learn in this video? Despite our relationship with China, what is the U.S. still going to do? Yeah, they're still going to try to cut a deal with Taiwan, right? Remember, what did we say Trump's all about? Yeah, he's all about the money, the Benjamins. He wants to show that the U.S. is #1 in basically how much money we make, arms sales. So of course he's gonna try to push China off the wayside. So here is the affirmative that is going to be covered in the Novice division, right? The United States federal government should cease arms sales to Taiwan, right? What we're trying to say here is that our relationship with China is much more important. On a personal level, how do you guys feel about that? Supporting this argument?
Yeah.
Yeah, does it make sense? Or do you guys think we should still continue to sell weapons to Taiwan?
You should still
Yeah or nah?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
As long as the United States is being benefited by Taiwan, then yes. But
Okay.
if Taiwan is not benefiting the U.S. whatsoever, as much as the other countries do, as much as China is.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about if it breaks some of the rules we have in place? Should we still do it anyway?
Well, there's a reason why there are rules, and if you break them, there is going to be consequences. Why set up those rules if you're going to break them either way?
Okay. So you guys are already thinking about both sides. This is fantastic. All right. So bear with me. Okay, I guess we'll go over this one first. So here we're saying that we should cease deals because our relationship to China is more important, right? Our advantage is that we have a ton of different investments in China, right? We have the US-China Green Fund, right? So already there's 500 million of US dollars, Chinese dollars, a bunch of other countries are involved too, that are investing in green technology. So what are some examples of green technology? Solar panels, what else? Windmills, what else?
Hydrocars.
Hydroelectric generation, right? So when we build dams and things like that. Can you guys think of anything else? What about like hydrogen fuel cells, like alternative batteries? Right? We're putting so much money into this project. Our relationship with China is very important because of it. However, look what happened when Trump pulled out of the Paris Accord. Do you guys know what that is, the Paris Climate Accord?
Yes.
Right. It was a group of countries that came together and said that climate change is the #1 priority for all of us and that we need to invest more money into these programs. What did Trump say about that?
It would have crippled our economy.
It would. Well,
That's what he said.
well, he's a climate denier is the problem. He's saying it doesn't require that many resources. And yeah, I guess one of his arguments was it might cripple our economy if we're putting more money into this project as opposed to, I don't even know what he argued for. All right. So what's the impact? What happens if we stop investing in these programs and China doesn't want to do business with us anymore?
We're screwed.
Yes. How?
If we're not benefiting.
Well, no. The impact is climate change, right?
Right.
right? If we're not putting money into these green projects, we're gonna accelerate climate change, right? So if we keep using coal, fossil fuels, natural gases, are we gonna accelerate climate change?
Yes.
Yeah, our emissions are gonna implode and the sun's gonna fry us because our ozone is depleted, right?
Well, I think it might just be a deterrent. Like what these are, it might like be a deterrent, but are you sure it's like that effective?
Well, this is what the affirmative is arguing. This is just what the argument is, that supporting our relationship to China. Like, these are reasons why our relationship to China is important. Without money invested in these programs, we're going to accelerate climate change. So what are some of the results of climate change?
Famine.
Yeah, famine, right? It's going to be harder to grow crops. More people are going to starve. Starving people go where?
War.
Well, they move to places with more food, right? What happens when there's too many people in those places? Disease.
The Black Plague.
Yeah, I guess that could happen again, in theory.
Black Plague too.
We're going to have resource wars, right? Everyone's going to be fighting, and that might escalate to further conflict. So we're saying, no. We need to stop selling arms to Taiwan to prevent this from happening. Does everyone follow? Cool. This is the first affirmative argument. What's the second? Military relations, right? So China invests heavily in their military. We saw in the video, it was kind of scary. They have a much larger population, and so they have a big military presence in the region. So they actually spend way more than Taiwan, right? So in comparison, 22 times more. However, the US is still ahead of them. It's only about a third of our budget. So why are Chinese relations with the US at a tipping point? We've talked about them so much already. Who's our president?
Trump.
Yeah. The problem is always going to come back to Trump, right? Trump has been taking a wrecking ball to all our international treaties, our relationships that have been being built for decades. He just took a giant wrecking ball and destroyed them. How? The trade war. Who is that with? China. It's trying to cheat them out of a lot of money. Intellectual property disputes, he's saying that China's trying to cheat us out of money because they're stealing a lot of our technology. And he doesn't want that. So also, how else has Trump pissed off China? Yep, they're not very happy about that. So if we continue on this path where we keep selling arms to Taiwan, what happens to our military relationship with China? China's gonna get aggravated, right? We might actually end up at war with them. All right, so some of you aren't following, right? We care about our relationship with China. If we keep selling arms to Taiwan, is that gonna help or hurt our relationship? Hurt. We're gonna piss them off, and they might want to try to escalate that to a full-on war. Simple, right? So what are our two arguments supporting a reduction in arms sale? Right? We're invested in China because of the Green Fund, right? We want to keep China happy. Otherwise, what happens? Conflict. Yes. Simple, right? Okay. Are you guys hungry already? Or can I go for like a couple more minutes? Yeah? Are you sure?
Sure.
Can I get that with a little more enthusiasm? Like, yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay. Here are the arguments against it. China and Taiwan is already trying to work things out on their own. we don't need to get involved. So anything we will do, such as sell arms, is not going to have a big impact on how China relates to Taiwan. Follow? So, in the currently, a stronger China will incentivize Taiwan from radicalizing, right? So remember we said their army is 22 times the size of Taiwan's?
Yes.
Currently. So is Taiwan going to try to start conflict with them?
No.
Are you going to start throwing rocks across the ocean?
No.
Hell no. So what this argument saying status quo, remember you guys heard that word earlier?
Yeah.
Things are okay right now. We do not need to get involved. The elections are coming up, right? Do you guys remember the president of Taiwan? President Xi? She is the leader of the Democratic Party, right? She's saying what? An independent Taiwan is good, right? We support a separate nation. The KMT party is an opposition party that may get elected next year. They support trying to find an agreement. They want middle grounds with China. So that's what's going on right now. We shouldn't disturb this, right? Remember, they took a poll in Taiwan and they said they like things as they are. No.
Wait, how are they associated? Like, I know they had a history with them, but when they split up, they didn't like secure independence, or they didn't do anything like that. Are they still associated with the Chinese government by like?
Well, the problem is there's conflicting policies. Taiwan says they're not, but China says yes.
Do they like pay them, or what do they do?
As far as I'm concerned, I think their economies are separate. It's very confusing. I understand, but that's what you guys will be arguing for either side. So the risk of real conflict is low. Has anything happened before? No, right? You guys haven't heard of any actual like nuclear war in the region. So the likelihood of it happening now, very low. So the affirmative has no impact, right? If we keep selling arms. And butting heads with China is good. Why is competition good? When you compete with someone, does that make you better or worse? Better, right? You create better technology, you have stronger economy. All right, last points. And we have a moral obligation, right? We're a democracy. Why would we support China, who is known to do undemocratic things, like steal people, make them disappear for months, and then have them reappear? Or like their surveillance programs that they have in the country. Of course, we want to support Taiwan, so we're obligated to. Second one is, China creates such a huge portion of greenhouse gases because they manufacture so much. It's about 40% of the world's greenhouse gases in China alone. So any Green Deal that we try to cut with China, is that really gonna help decrease climate change? The negative is gonna argue no. No matter what, China's still gonna wanna keep making their money. They're gonna still have businesses that emit greenhouse gases. So these 2 points come back to the US. Remember have you guys heard of him talk about the Buy American or America First policy? No? Does that sound familiar? Okay, so basically he started this initiative where he wanted more companies to source things not from China but from the US, right? That policy is called protectionism. That means that we want to depend on ourselves. We don't want this globalized economy, right? Because then we're invested in other countries when we really have no need, when we can make all these things here. So what the negative is arguing is that because we have this new policy, America First, trying to work with China on the Green Fund is not going to work out, right? Second, it conflicts, we have conflicting policies with climate change, right? we can't both support this green fund and then go and turn around and withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord, right? What are we telling the world? When we withdrew from that, what did we say?
We don't care about the planet.
Yeah, exactly. So it's conflicting. So China is not going to want to do any business with us. Right? What is he always saying?
Wrong.
Yes. Okay. So did that make sense, the negative arguments? Luckily, you guys have a lot to work on these arguments, but my role was to give you guys the gist. So, we good? Any questions? No? All right. Go free and eat.